Okay, everyone. Hope you're enjoying a terrific holiday season as we have New Year's coming up. And coming off a bowl game loss to Kansas State in the Rate Bowl out in Phoenix, Arizona, 44-41, in a game that saw us fall to 7-6 for the 2024 season. Second year in a row going 7-6, which on it, you are what your record says you are. We haven't shown the improvement, and we didn't take the next step in improving our record, stepping up the next rung on the ladder to expand Rutgers football and the program. And lately, there's been getting some traction by those who cover the team. Have we hit a ceiling? I've been talking about this forever. And I mean, if you go back to my videos going back to the summer, whether it's basketball, quite frankly, or football, I've said ad nauseum, there's a difference between improving the program, doing well with recruiting, having the spotlight shown on you, having a top-ranked recruiting class. We're seeing with basketball, we have 2 potential lottery picks, and we're 7-5. And we have a really good chance that we don't make the tournament. Many people had us going to at least the Sweet 16. Many had us going to an Elite 8. But when you look at the football program, people are finally starting to get it, and something that I've talked about forever, and that is, what is our ceiling? Are we who we are? Are we destined to be a middling football team? And I responded to someone on one of my YouTube video thread today, and he said, our ceiling was set when Coach Shiano came back for part 2, and that we never were going to reach the next level. And I thought it was fair enough when you look at, first of all, you say we like Coach Shiano. We've said this 1,000 times. Good face of the program. Does things the right way. Not going to embarrass you on or off the field. The product on the field could be, a little bit of a problem. But he's not that guy that's going to turn the program around in a year. Like Indiana or like Syracuse, and we're going to get to Syracuse in a second. He's a builder. He wants to take incremental steps. He just doesn't want good football players. He wants guys that love football, that are gritty, determined, that work hard, want to be there, want to be student athletes. Although with NIL, and that has to be an episode for another day, just devoted totally to that. But he's not that kind of guy. And quite frankly, he doesn't have the mindset and the scheming ability to be able to turn around a team on a dime like Indiana did. And when you look at how we developed, it's a grind. Coach likes to talk about keep chopping, chop, 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 but we're grinders. We don't take those leaps. Small step by small step. And maybe we get to a point like we did in Greg Schiano 1, where we probably should have been in an Orange Bowl. Didn't make it, drop pass against West Virginia. We wound up 11-2. But that was about it. Our entire identity revolves around one season 18 years ago in 2006. It was a night to remember. Remember my car breaking down in New Brunswick, had to get towed back home. But you know what? None of that really mattered to me that night. The next week was really disappointing. It was my birthday. We were out to dinner watching. I had the game on, and losing to Cincinnati was absolutely devastating. But is it fair to say this is who we are? We're a middling program that will have moments and not much else. In Coach Schiano's defense, and I've talked about this, in some other videos, this is not an easy job. And it's not even about NIL and all that, although that's part of the problem. We'll never be Alabama. We'll never be Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. We never were going to be those teams anyway. In the New York, New Jersey area, pro teams, pro sports, professional teams dominate. Nobody cares about college sports unless you do well. And if you're a college program and it becomes like a professional program, like if Alabama was here in New Jersey, everybody would love them. But pro sports dominate. People don't really care about, Rutgers, unless you go to the college football playoff, then the spotlight will be on us. And so you're going up against pro sports versus collegiate sports and where people's passions lie. And it's with pro sports, not with college sports. I've always loved college sports, still do. Although the playoff system, the NIL, and the transfer portal and all that is making it not fun. It's basically a minor league for the NFL now. It's not about student athletes. It's absolutely not about amateurism anymore. And there's something about when you're young and you're enthusiastic and you're playing for each other and playing for your school that makes it just more fun and more passionate. It's not a business decision. It's not a transaction. Nonetheless, we have that going against us in this area. The other thing is the hustle and bustle of the New York, New Jersey area. When you look at where our student athletes go, and they go to Penn State, or they go to Syracuse, Virginia Tech, these places are literally in the middle of nowhere. Good college towns, but they're in the middle of nowhere. And, if you go to a private liberal arts college, they're all in the middle of nowhere too. So there's something about wanting to get away from the congestion and the hustle and bustle of the New York, North Jersey area. And there's something to be said for that. It's not a sexy area to go to. It's not like going to California or Florida. So you have that going against you. And when you have your top student athletes leaving state at very high numbers every year, it makes it difficult to build a program with the core of keeping your best student athletes home. It's just something that's never been a thing here. Coach Schiano has done a better job at that than most or all. And that's why he's really important for this program. Because if you have a guy come from the outside, whether it's Chris Ash or Terry Shea, they don't get it. They don't know how to recruit the area. Chris Ash barely even made an effort. They think just because they're the coach here, people are going to come here. That's not how it works. We have opportunities here. New Jersey's typically, depending on the year, number 1, number 2, number 3 in the country in per capita income. Top 5 school system. So people have options. They want to move around. They want to travel. They want to go other places. They don't necessarily just want to stay home and go to their flagship state university. So that's a really difficult road to hoe for Greg Schiano and the staff. That being said, we have to do a better job. And the 2 examples that stick out this year, obviously Indiana. We'll get to them in a second. But let's talk about Syracuse. Remember back in the summer, Fran Brown was hired. They were getting some early recruiting success. And people on the Rutgers boards, they're like freaking out. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Fran Brown, he's beating us out the recruits. And at the time I said, don't worry about it. He's going to have some early successes. And if you watched any of my videos, you've seen that one of my major criticisms of a coach was it's one thing to have recruiting success on paper, depending on whose rank you listen to. For this year, it's number 28, number 30, which is really good. But the results don't turn out on the field. Yes, we're going to get into the whole injury thing. Everybody's had injuries. We talked about that ad nauseum. But Fran Brown had early success recruiting at Syracuse. We wound up having a higher ranked class for this past class, 2024. Where we were in the high 20s, around 30. Fran Brown was, 35, 36, 38, 39 in that range. They went 10-3. They just beat down Washington State 52-35 in the Holiday Bowl. By the way, with New Jersey native Kyle McCord throwing for 453 yards and 5 touchdowns. You want to add insult to injury? Yeah, okay, Washington State, lost a bunch of guys. I've lost their coach. But as I said in my last video, bowl games now are more meaningless because of all the movement of transfer portal guys holding out for the NFL, or guys that are dinged up and just not playing. And so the bowl game scenario has changed, but it's changed for everybody. So Syracuse goes 10-3 with a worse recruiting class than we did for the last cycle. And they're a top 20 team. We're 5 years into the Greg Schiano 2, and we're still 7-6. Yes, Syracuse is the ACC. They had some ranked wins early over teams like Georgia Tech, UNLV, Pitt, I think they were like 6-0 or 7-0 at one time, and then they wind up losing 5 in a row. So those ranked wins that they had at the time now are, as we look in the rearview mirror, not as impressive. But they did beat, number 6, number 7, Miami, whatever they were at the time. And then a common opponent was, Virginia Tech. They beat them 38-31. And they had one other common opponent. Might have been Washington, come to think of it. But nonetheless, top 20 team, recruiting rank, not as ranked highly as ours. And I've said it, as I've said 1,000 times, perception, recruiting ranks, spotlight doesn't matter. The ability to execute on the field matters. Remember Coach saying several years ago, it's not about scheme, it's about culture. I think he's wrong. Well, you can have two things be right at the same time. You want good guys, you want guys that love football, grinders. But it is about scheme. Indiana, in a matter of a year, Syracuse, in a matter of a year, turn around. Let's go, if we look at some stats, Syracuse on offense, number 25 in the country. 33.5 points per game. We were number 59. Yards per game, 462. They were number 6. We were number 47. Yards per play, 6 yards per play. They were number 38. Third down conversions, almost 49%. Number 7 in the country. Fourth down conversion, 68%, number 18 in the country. Red zone, just under 88%, number 40. Our points per game, we were number 59. Our yards per game, we were number 72. Second year, Kirk Shiraka. We had some talent on offense. Yeah, we had some injuries. Let's look at Indiana and the job that they've done this year. Kurt Signetti. Points per game, number 3 in the country. Yards per game, number 47, not as high, but it just shows you that how efficient they are running their offense. Yards per play, 34th in the country. Third down conversions, number 20. Fourth down conversions, number 38. Red zone percentage, number 1 in the country. And in just a matter of a year. And the thing is, Indiana isn't just running that wide open offense where they can throw it or run it. Their defense is really good. Now, to get back to Syracuse for a second, Syracuse's defense was not great. There were some things we were better in, some things they were better in. Points per game, they were number 96. They gave up 30. We were number 71. Yards per game, they were number 77 at 391 yards per game. We were number 91, so they were better there. Third down conversions, they were better. They 72nd in the country. We were 98th. And then we were better on fourth down, not giving up first downs. We were number 74. Syracuse, not good. They were number 125. And in the red zone, they weren't great. Number 78, we were number 35. So they got a ways to go. Ironically, on defense, because Fran Brown being a defensive guy, Indiana, in addition to the top ratings in all the offensive categories, number 5 in points per game, number 3 in yards per game, number 25 in third down conversions, number 4 in fourth down conversions, and number 49 in red zone defense. So when Coach Shiano says, we're going to get there, what is there and when is that? And what does that look like? I've talked about this a couple times. I know my patience, and I know there's a lot of people out there who their patience is running out. Some people, it's still like, give it the old college try. You got to support your guys and all that. But college football now and college athletics is transactional. It's about getting paid. It's about movement. They're not amateur athletes anymore. They're not student athletes anymore. So being beholden to your guys just because it really isn't or shouldn't be a thing anymore. Nonetheless, if you have the right scheme and put guys in a position to succeed, you can do well, and you can do well quickly, especially when you have the transfer portal, player movement. People always reference, actually, a lot of people were kind of mad at how quickly Deion Sanders was able to turn over the Colorado roster, entire roster, through the portal. We can argue about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's probably not a good thing. I don't think that's what it's meant to do. Nonetheless, if we get back to the recruiting part of it and the scheme part of it, it's two separate things. So Indiana's 2024 recruiting class was 46th. It's not great. As we said, Syracuse was a high 30s. Team that I've been talking about for years that continually does well. They have an off year every now and then. But it's Boise State. They have no natural recruiting advantages in Idaho. Their recruiting class last cycle, 1 5-star, 1 4-star, and 78 3-stars. They build their program on 3 stars. Been using them as an example forever. Then they run that zone running scheme, West Coast offense passing game. They've said in the past that they don't really have although they use these concepts, they don't really have a set scheme. They just use situational football to decide what play you're going to run, which is what I kind of wished we would do more of. Instead of being dedicated to a set of principles and, run, pass and being predictable, why not be more aware of what's going on with the rhythm and the flow of that particular series? How we design plays in sequentially, in sequence. Nonetheless, Boise, all 3 stars. Arizona State, number 54 recruiting class, 2 4-stars. Next year, though, this 2025, they're going to be top 15. That's what happens when you win. Which is the other thing, the other side of this for us. Winning cures a lot of things. Had we had that season that a lot of people thought we might and had hoped for, 10-2, 10-3, 11-2, yeah, recruiting's going to jump. The frustration of not being able, and yes, we've had a lot of injuries. Offensive line, New York area teams, Jets, Giants, Rutgers, terrible injury luck. I don't know, must be something in the water around here. Our offensive line last year, or the past couple of years. We had a wide receiver room that was always banged up when we didn't have many top athletes in that room to begin with. Quarterback. Rotating quarterbacks in and out. Remember the secrecy around Noah Vedral. What's wrong with Noah Vedral? Nobody knew. You had to get Gavin in there a little sooner than we wanted to. And things just didn't work out from that standpoint. But regardless what happens, everybody gets banged up. I mean, the teams that we played to and get lost to and lost badly to this year, USC, UCLA, Wisconsin, they were all banged up, missing guys too. So what are we doing? Is it just a matter of depth? One of the reasons why I was really excited this year because of our depth that we recruited and that we got in the portal. Shedrick Rhodes, thought he'd see more playing time actually this year. Great dance moves, but I guess he can't get under field just yet. If somebody went down, the whole team wouldn't go into collapse. And as it turned out, we went on an 0-4 run mid-season anyway. So that didn't seem to matter much. It's just really frustrating watching other teams like Indiana. They were past 4 years, 2-10, 3-8, 4-9, and now 11-2. They crushed Nebraska and UCLA. They beat Washington by 2 touchdowns. They beat Michigan. Can you imagine if we beat Michigan? Or we crushed Nebraska? We'd be building the statues now. That's the frustrating part of it. Indiana, again, they don't have any real recruiting. Okay, Ohio, maybe a little bit in Illinois, a little bit in Wisconsin. As we've seen with the Jets and the Giants, coaching is everything. The Jets should have 6 more wins. Right? I think any sort of coach that coached fundamentals and where the defense could actually tackle, not get called for 8 penalties in a quarter, or the entire offensive line being penalized in a single game, knowing when to go for it, not to go for it on 4th down, when to kick the field goal, when to go for the first down. That alone would have been an extra 4, 5, 6 wins for them. So there's something about how we go about building. Are we focus too much on taking baby steps and hoping that all the baby steps lead up to the grand finale, the big picture? And what does that look like? I've talked about how next year is not going to be easy. We're going to have to, and Mike from the Night Report said this. Was it Mike or Richie? I think it was Mike. We're absolutely, positively going to have to get a win that nobody expects. Not saying we got to beat Oregon or Ohio State, but maybe you beat Penn State. Beat Iowa. Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, Iowa, all on the schedule next year. You know what that means? There's a pretty good chance we go 0-4 in those games. And you know we're going to lose some games against our peers, middling Big Ten teams that we shouldn't lose, and we do. So you're thinking that's probably 6 losses there. And then I've talked about this a bunch. And I've talked about how we're playing the MAC champion Ohio, 10-3. And Miami of Ohio, who played Ohio in the MAC championship. And Miami of Ohio won their bowl game today in convincing fashion. I forget what the score was, but they're now, I want to say 8-5, 9-5, whatever they might be. So you have Ohio, Miami of Ohio, who are pretty damn good. Saying this now, don't be shocked, and I said this in my last video, if they present a problem for us. Wait till next year is not a thing for Rutgers football. There won't be the next step on the rung of the ladder. If we can avoid the injury bug, at least limit the impact somewhat. What kind of difference is that going to make? Do we, beat a middling Big Ten team? We're still maybe 7-5, 6-6. I think we've reached our ceiling. This is who we are. Barring some from major events where top Big Ten programs lose guys, big injuries, lose a coach. We get through the season with no injuries and we have the ball bounce our way. All of those things having to come together perfectly, the chances of that happening are slim to none. Next year won't be the year that we take that step and get to 10-2. It just won't. It's not in the cards. Now, we did have, so we don't have Wagner. I always like to use Wagner as a whipping boy to explain how our schedule rolls out, and we don't have Wagner to beat up on anymore. But we do have Norfolk. We're back to Norfolk. So if you want to pencil that in as a win, okay, maybe that's one you pencil in as a win. I wouldn't be too hasty about penciling in Ohio or Miami of Ohio as definitive wins. Because we tend to lay those eggs or not play well when we should have these games where we're putting up 400, 500, 600 yards against these teams and we don't. We should run them out of the building. Who did Indiana beat this year? 66-0. Was it Florida Atlantic? I think maybe it was Florida Atlantic. That's a legit program. It's not Wagner. Nonetheless, I think we got as far as we can go. Maybe on paper, maybe a couple of years down the road, we get an 8-4 kind of season. But there's no, but I know coaches said that the goal is a Big Ten championship and NCAA championship, but I don't believe that's in the cards for us. For us to have a 9-3, 10-2 kind of season, everything has to go right. And when you're that kind of team where everything has to go right, everything has to fall your way, you just can't do it on talent and coaching, your chances are much slimmer. I don't know what all you guys think. I'm sure a lot of you guys think the same. I'm sure there's a lot of guys that say, hey, these are our guys, these are our team, we can do better. You know, the last time, we talked about 2006, but before that, I think it was, we had some okay teams in the 80s, but sitting in Giant Stadium in 1976, going 11-0 against last game of the year against Colgate. What was that game? 17-9, I believe. A close call, might have been 78 against Alabama. Or was it Penn State? Might have been both. We need a win or to lose to Oregon 37-34. I mean, a loss, that's when a loss is a win for Rutgers. If we get ran out of the stadium next year against Oregon and it's, 56-14, how far did we really come? Penn State, we have a better chance because they're not an explosive track meet kind of team. But they always make enough plays in the second half to pull away from us. And we'll have the best offense that we've had against them in several years. But make that a game. Go out there, beat Iowa next year. Be in the game against Penn State with a minute left and you're driving down the field. It's not against the law to beat like a ranked team every once in a while. Seriously, it's really not. But that's what we're up against. The potential for another 6-6 year next year is very high. We'll have to take a look and see what the betting markets say about that. Nonetheless, everybody, enjoy your New Year's. Hopefully basketball doesn't have a clinker or a stinker or a clunker or a stinker against Columbia. Columbia is going to present some problems for us. Nonetheless, probably do a year-end or a review of Rutgers football and what to look forward to next year as far as our recruiting class. And will we have guys that'll be able to jump in right away and contribute, because that's the world we're living in now, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you the next time.